Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Missy. Thanks for joining me again. Today's layout is for the Hip Kit Club, and it's another layout using the 2015 July kits. And I'm scrapping another pool picture. Surprise, surprise, right? I decided that I wanted to do a lot of backing with pattern paper. I had an idea, and so I opened up my software for my silhouette, and I created the words to "You Are My Sunshine, My Only Sunshine." I didn't do the entire song, but I repeated it over and over and just created a background on almost the entire sheet. And I cut it in white cardstock, and I'm just going through all the pattern papers that I wanted to use based on the patterns and the colors. And I just cut little strips, and I'm going to back every open word with a new sheet of pattern paper, or not a new sheet, but a new piece. And I decided to do all the sunshines in yellow, and that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to pick a different color or a different pattern for each word. So where it says skies are gray, I'm going to back gray with this color gray, just because it was gray and I had the gray and white striped paper. So I spent some time doing that, and this actually went pretty quickly. I think the longest part was actually waiting for my Cameo to cut all of those words. But I just set it to cut and went and did a couple things around the house, and about 10 minutes later it was done. So that part was finished while I was doing something else. So the rest of it went pretty easy. As you can see here, this is not rocket science. It's very simple. It's just a matter of choosing the papers or the colors that you want and gluing them down. And I like the way this gives you peaks. Is that the word I want to use? The peaks of color through each word. It's kind of peeking through. And if you want a paper that's got a busy pattern, like that chevron paper from October Afternoon, this is a good way to do it because you get little bits of it without being too much. Now what I'm going to do is I decided I wanted to use some of this washi paper tape from Simple Stories, and I'm just treating it like the pattern paper. I like the colors and some of the patterns on there. And so I just cut it and glued it down just like it would be pattern paper. I didn't peel it off the backing or anything like that because I wasn't going to use it as tape. I wanted to use it as paper. So I'm going to add a little bit of pink from this crepe paper piece because I've got yellow and I've got gray and I've got a couple of different patterns back there. And I didn't want to use too many busy patterns because I think if you use too many busy patterns behind these words, then it's difficult to read what the word is saying. And so I wanted to use mostly solids. Okay, so I wanted a blue, and the color that I had in my mind, I didn't have a paper that color. And so I just pulled out a little piece of scrap cardstock, and I'm going to pull out my gelatos, and I'm going to make my own blue background. And as you can see here, this is super simple. I just scribbled a couple of different shades of blue onto the cardstock, squirted some water on it, and then used my old trusty hand there to smudge it around. You can't mess that up. It's super easy. And I like the way that looks. And so I'm going to use this color behind the word skies. Oh, I do lighten it up a little bit. I think it was a little too bright. And it's hard to tell the exact color because of my lights here, but I didn't want it to be too dark of a blue, so I do lighten it up just a bit. And then I do this just like I did the pattern papers. I just cut it into strips, and I honestly didn't even wait for it to dry because it wasn't super wet. I didn't spray a whole lot of water on there. And I cut that one a little short, so I had to cut another one. And I like the pop of blue that gives. It's nice and pretty. And I decide, since all the word skies are on one side of the design, I'm going to also use this blue on the other side to back the word only. And that way I have blue on both sides. And now I'm going to do the same thing with orange. And I just pull out a couple of orange and yellows and my white. or maybe I don't use any yellows. I think I was experimenting with a couple of yellows on another sheet, and it wound up being too bright. And this is a quick and easy way to create your own color. If you're going to do something like this and you want to add some orange, or you want to add some blue, or a color that you don't have, gelatos, watercolors, don't be afraid to get a little messy and create your own element, because you really can't mess it up. And it's fun to experiment, and that's how you learn to see whether you like things or whether you don't. You just got to try it. So now I'm going to come in with the rest of my design. The background is finished for now, and I'm going to create my layers, which is something I do almost on every layout. I like creating layers behind my picture, and so I'm going to use pattern paper and a couple of the Project Life cards and some vellum. So I'm going to try to bring in most of the colors in the background as layering pieces behind the picture. And I don't want to go too big with the layers because I don't want to cover up a lot of that background. I mean, obviously some of it's going to be covered up, but I don't want to cover up a whole lot of it because I do want it to show, since that's a big design feature on this page. And since the background's busy, I don't want to overpower the photo. So I want to make sure my layers showcase the picture. And now you're probably thinking, oh my God, what is she doing? Don't do that. Yes, you know me. I have to I have to get a little messy. But don't worry, it works out. I promise I don't ruin it. I just want to create some elements of water splashing behind the picture because she is in the pool. But the time of day we were in the pool and she was underneath our umbrella, it faded out the blue of the water, and so you can't see any blue in the picture. And so I wanted some blue, extra blue, behind the picture. And so I hope you're not cringing that I just muddy up this beautiful background, but I promise it works out. I'm happy with it. I like the way this looks. It's just my thing. I don't know. I just enjoy doing the packaging technique. And I used some of the Mermaid Lagoon, and that was from the May hip kits. And I also did some stitching. I don't know if you saw me pointing to that a second ago. I did some straight and zigzag stitching in between each line in a light blue. Basically the same color as, well, it's not really light. It's not aqua. It's a pretty blue color. And as you can see now, you can kind of see the blue ink peeking out behind the photo. So it's not totally muddying it up. I know I said that earlier, but sometimes when you add inks over other pattern paper that's a different color, it does kind of make it a muddy color. But in this case, it worked out, and I didn't use a whole lot of water, and so it didn't mess it up too much. So now I'm going to work on the design, and I cut out that piece that looks like a little photo with the sun glare from the Simple Story sheet, and it's a cut apart sheet. And I really wanted to use that on my page because I think that's so pretty. And last month's kit had a 12 by 12 sheet of that, and it was just so pretty. And that's also a Simple Stories frame, and I'm going to use that as another design element right there to the left of the photo. And that heart is from the Ellie Studio Ephemera pack, or die cuts pack. And I'm going to play around with some of the not die cuts, chipboard pieces from crate paper. And I like the way the ink looks coming out from behind the photo and the layers, because it does look a little bit like water. And it kind of creates a little, to me it makes the photo stand out a little bit more because it creates more of a solid color in between the layers and the picture, if that makes sense. It makes sense in my brain, I guess. And we all know my brain works in crazy ways. If you know me in real life, you would agree. So I'm going to come in with another piece there. That's an October Afternoon flare button, and these puffy stickers are also from October Afternoon. And I'm just going to add in a couple of little doodads here and there. The little fish, a little puffy heart. And since my picture did have some white space in it, technically it's blue space because it is pool water, but it's faded out so you can't see it. So in this instance, it is white empty space. And so I like layering that heart on top of it because it doesn't take away from the focal point of the picture, which is her face. And I do take that Ellie Studio wood veneer that says "Love This," and I added some of that Mermaid Lagoon ink to it, and it was kind of dark, and so I took some white gesso and just smudged it over to lighten it up just a little bit. And I do that a couple times just to get the right shade of blue that I wanted. More Ellie's Studio. And I really didn't know at this point what my title was going to be, and so I just decided to create it right here inside this little frame. And I wanted a short word because there wasn't a lot of room there with these craft thickers, and so it's just going to be "This Was Fun." And I didn't want to add any other letters on top of the background die cuts because those words are already there, and I think if I would have put thickers on top of it, it would have just been a jumbled mess. And so I didn't add a really big extra title. And I didn't add any journaling either because, you know, I didn't really have a lot to say as far as, you know, what was going on. So I just settled for "This Was Fun." I did add the date, and that's the final layout. It was just a fun day in the pool. It wasn't a huge story to tell, and so I didn't really feel like I was missing out without adding journaling. But here you can see I added a little bit more of chipboard here and there and some more splatters with spray and inks and things. And that's it. So if you guys want to visit Hip Kit Club, check out the website I posted below. And thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.